I want to first thank God for this beautiful evening, holiday season, and there's a saying that says Jesus is the reason for the season. This is a season. It's a season of life, hope, joy, peace, happiness, and all the other adjectives that describe our feelings and our emotions and our spirit. So on behalf of the Bruce Butler family, we want to thank each and every one of you for coming out, sharing your love. We know that there's so much to share, so much to give, so much to receive. And once again, I'm very happy to be here on behalf of Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center. This will be considered a movement. The movement is to inform, educate, inspire, motivate, nudge, push, and receive and embrace all of our life experiences. Because the people you love, when they hurt, you hurt. When they're happy, you're happy. So I'm going to digress just a minute, just to say that, are there any praying folk in here? Can I get a show of hands of praying folk? Okay, thank you. I feel really good because two reasons. I'm in what's considered a house of the Lord, house of God. It's Team Challenge. It is a Christian-based organization. So I feel good that I'm in a physical house. Now that I'm surrounded by a lot of praying folk, I feel even better that I'm in a house, a spiritual house of praying folk. I asked that question for a reason, because this is a special night, a special evening. It's going to be filled with emotion. And as I get older, I become more emotional. And I think the emotion becomes part of moving toward the essence of life and love and understanding of eternity, of the now, and beyond. So I begin to get a little emotional. So I'm going to ask for you all's fervent prayer, for real, that you'll hold me up in prayer, because again, this is very emotional. It's a special opportunity for me. It's kind of keep alive a certain spirit that's incredible. So there will come times that I'll be like a little sensitive, a little emotional, but that's out of love. It's just such a real spirit that's penetrating through me and in me. So I'm going to ask you for your prayer that God will strengthen me to get through this, because this is not for me. It's for all those who will meet that question, meet that point in life where we come to the understanding, where we're moving, trying to understand, and to manage, to deal with what's coming. Cancer is a horror. It really is a horror, because it's affecting more and more and more people. You know, it's something that some say genetic, some say environment, and there are many things that can cause cancer. Stress, lifestyles, mindset, faith, hope, or the lack of. So those things. So we're here tonight to encourage one another. And God blessed me to be an older brother, not the oldest, but an older brother. I call my baby sister, and Veronica Bruce Butler. And as I reflect on her life experience, she was an absolutely amazing person. When I say amazing, that's real, not a stretch of the word. Because looking back at her experience, what to me was so amazing is the fact for a year and a half she battled with this, but she had an incredible spirit about it. She loved God. You asked her, Veronica, how are you doing? She says, well, I love God. She said, God's gonna have the last word. And whatever God says, I'm okay with it. And her signature was, God got me. God got me. And in that 1.5 years of going through, she never complained. That was just my record. She never complained to be so young, 48 years old. Attractive, smart, engaged, loved, knew how to love. Never complained. A husband of 27 years, 2 young adult children, a 2-year-old grandbaby, an 85-year-old mom, 8 siblings, all of that. She was to me. But she said, I'm at peace. God got me. So I'm going to ask to begin with I put together a small presentation because we talk about what's cancer. A lot of people, we hear the word, and I can remember back in the day, cancer was almost like cussing somebody out. You didn't say that. You didn't say it. So we back in the day, we called it the C word. Anybody remember that? We called it the C word. You know, Mrs. Jones out the street, she got a big C. And some people, as they went through, they felt like it was something I did. Or we didn't talk about it. And so tonight we're here to learn more about it from real people. Not a book, not a movie. These are real, this is powerful. And God showed me, he says that the key to hope is in the people who survive. So I honor you, I celebrate you, I love on you, I praise you. God said give honor and praise where it's due. And you're deserving of it. Because you have the key to hope through your stories. And I found myself recently saying this over and over. There's an old song. And I don't remember, it's an old song, and I don't remember all the words. But there's a phrase within that song that is so powerful. It says, somebody told me about the joy they had. Somebody told me about the sorrow they had, about the pain they had, about the grief they had, about the loss they had. But I didn't think it could be until it happened to me. You know, we hear stories of other people that say, oh, I feel so good. But when it hits home, it's a whole different ballgame. I have an auntie, Sarah, and she uses that phrase all the time. She said, when it hits home, it's a whole different ballgame. Again, when people you love, when you hurt, we hurt. When you love, we love. So if we can have just it's a short video, and it's a professional done video, and it's going to talk about, sort of answer the question, what is cancer? So if you just digress with me, and tonight we're going to have some, again, cancer survivors are going to come and share their experience. We can have some words from Mr. Bob David, who is the manager and director of the Cancer Resource Group, Cancer Support Group in Boston Medical Hospital. And so we're going to hear from real life people with real life experiences. So we want to go with that. Thank you. Wow, so informative. Very, very informative. Once again, thank you. I can't thank you enough for being here. So at this time, I'm going to ask I put together a PowerPoint presentation, which will give you some background on a little information about Veronica, some information about the resource center that was established in September, and also some vision points of where this is going. It's becoming a ministry or a movement, or things that we're doing within the community for the benefit of people directly and indirectly harmed by cancer. Because if someone loses a loved one or a spouse or someone very close, then they're left behind to try to survive, try to make it. And so it's about bringing those resources, be it housing, insurance issues, questions around finance, relationships, and so food, nutrition, and so forth. And so we're going to see this as a very short PowerPoint, and then followed by Mr. Bob David, for you to come and have a few words, and after which then we'll be ready to eat, and we can dine and come back, and we'll begin, we'll continue with some testimonies from you. Okay? Thanks. And so please support our efforts to show love, peace, and compassion for others. And so those who are interested in volunteering, if you have some extra time, you want to continue to share your experiences and reach out, we encourage that. We're grateful for that. So at this time, Mr. David, if you'd like to come up and say a few words, and then after which we can dine and prepare for sharing.
Hi everybody, it's my pleasure to be here. I thank Dr. Bruce for inviting me to speak to you for a few minutes. So my name is Bob David. I manage the cancer support programs. It's actually become the cancer and sickle cell support programs at Boston Medical Center. And I did bring some of our brochures. I'll pass them out. Every 3 months we put out a new brochure that lists all of our programs, which are all free for patients/survivors. Actually, we call anybody who's been diagnosed with cancer and is still breathing a survivor. So you're a survivor from day one. Some people, they beat their cancer, and some people, unfortunately, don't. But as you saw in the video that showed earlier, treatments are getting better and better and better. The odds are getting better and better and better. And that's the direction it's going. Some people don't believe in science, let's say, and that's a big thing these days. But it's science, and not only science, but it's people like yourselves who join research programs or studies. Many times you're asked, when you go to the hospital, if you're diagnosed, often you'll be asked, would you like to be part of a study? And the study or the research protocol is really testing out things to help yourself perhaps, but others down the line. Different procedures, different drugs, or what have you, that can really be beneficial. And actually, any of us who've ever been to the hospital and has been prescribed some procedure or some medicine or some medication, we're the recipients of the benefit of those things by virtue of other people having gone through trials or research studies. In other words, every single drug that you receive now, any medication you're on now, has been tried and proven safe through other people that came before you. Okay? So I just want to put that out there because that's such an important part of the advancement of medicine and medical care for all of us. So when someone says to you, would you like to be part of this think about it, because it's really a way to contribute to others down the line. Maybe your own children, maybe your friends, maybe even yourself, because you know what? You can have cancer one time and you can have it again. You can have the same cancer come back. You can have a totally different cancer. You could have, cancer in the breast. You could have cancer in the GI at another point. I don't mean to sound scary, but that's the reality. That can happen. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. Okay? And when it does happen, or when you do get diagnosed with cancer, it's always a scary thing. And you're going to hear from, we have three of the lovely women that I've worked with, two for many years, one I've met more recently. They're going to share a bit of their stories. It's been my total privilege to get to know them and to work with them, to hear the various stories. It's really been my total privilege to run support groups for many of our patients and to hear the testimonies. And you find the most courage and strength and faith and support of one another in the people who come to these groups. And I'll tell you, it's always a sign to me of their attitude and how well they're going to do in overcoming their cancer when they say, I want to come to a group because I want to tell my story. I want to hear other people's stories. It's saying, I accept what I have and I'm going to do my best with it. This is something I have to deal with. But it's not my whole life. It's not woe is me. It's not why me. It's like, this is me. This is part of my story now, and I'm going to deal with it. And I want to share it with others, and I want to get other people's input. And that's part of the healing process. And so that's why I want to give you one of our brochures, because it lists the different support groups. We have different support groups for different cancers. We have for different population groups, like we have a Spanish-speaking cancer support group. We have a Haitian Creole-speaking cancer support group, as well as breast cancer, prostate cancer, which is the most common men's cancer, GI cancer, lung cancer, head and neck cancer, blood cancers. We have groups for any of those types of cancers. We also have a general group for women who have had any cancer, or same for men. And I also want to say that our groups are open to cancer survivors wherever they've been treated. If you lived in Canada, or you lived in Kentucky, and you experienced cancer, and maybe it was 15 years ago, and now you moved to Boston or Brockton, and you would like to just be with other cancer survivors, you are welcome to our programs, okay? And like I said, it doesn't matter where you've been or how long ago it has been. Our programs are open and 100% free. And in pre-COVID days, all our meetings were in person at the hospital. And we always have food, and we provide transportation home for people who needed that. So we do a lot to help take care of our patients. Boston Medical Center is great like that. And I wanted to make one I think, last comment. You saw that presentation on cancer. It was from Cancer Centers of America, which is a great institution. But you are so fortunate to live in the Boston area. You're not going to get better care anywhere. The best hospitals and the best medical care is in Boston. There are other places also, but you don't need to go elsewhere out of Boston. You're lucky to be here, I have to say. And any of the hospitals in the area have really top-notch care. So I think people are getting hungry, and thank you for the opportunity. If anybody has any specific questions about our programs or just about cancer treatment that I can answer you, feel free to approach me. And thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much for those remarks. Before we begin, I want to say, bless the food. Right. Real quick. I'd like to let you say this real quick. It's found in Revelation chapter 7, verse 12. It's the same amen, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor Every day I sit and ask myself, how did love slip away? Something whispered in my ears and said that you are not alone. I am here with you, though you're far away. I am here to stay. But you are not alone. I am here with you, though we're far apart. You're always in my heart. But you are not alone. Okay? Just the other night, I thought I heard you cry, asking me to come and hold you in my arms. I can hear your prayers, your burdens, I will bear. But first, I need your hand, then forever can begin. Every day I ask myself, how did life and love slip away? Something whispers in my ear and says that you are not alone. I am here with you. Though you're far away, I am here to stay. But you are not alone. I am here with you. Though we're far apart, you're always in my heart. Whisper 3 words, and I'll come running. And you know, I'll be there. I'll be there. That you are not alone. Those are just some words that are really important. I think that it's a who's that. Sorry. Now the problem is, any more food left? No. Sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, don't answer that. Yeah, that's right. You don't answer. So those are the words that's really important because I think with the Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center and the Boston Medical Cancer Support Group and all those other support systems that we have, be it a huge family like Renee has, be it a small family like your favorite brother or your favorite uncle or aunt who's always there for you, or your best friend, that is that voice that says, I am here for you. And though you're far away, I'm here to say that you are not alone. So I think it offers some really good assurance and reassurance that this is not a single journey. It's not a solo journey because we do this together. And the word to this other one may be a little more personal to those who are surviving and have a story. And I like this is an old song too. At first I was afraid. I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. But then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong. I learned how to get along. And so you're back from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. I should have changed us to the lock. I should have made you leave the key. But for just 1 second, you'll be back to bother me. So now go. Tell cancer go. Get. Guilt you. Yeah, get. Walk out the door. Just turn around. You're not welcome anymore. That's what we have to talk to. This is spirit. You're not welcome anymore. Bye. Just turn around. So those are the words. So we have to kind of talk to that spirit. Tell them, get out. Bible says, get behind me. Get behind me. Get out and move on. So now that Thomas is back, thank you so much, Thomas. Thomas is with Brockton Community Access. He's doing a really great job of covering this, and we're honored and grateful because this is an opportunity for the community to know what we're doing and to hear your story. And again, that's the goal, so that we can learn and live and grow and be supported and encouraged by each other. Without further ado, I'm going to bring out Mr. Alan Jacobson. He has a story about his experience along the journey on the topic of cancers. And we're going to ask you, each of you, to kind of keep your remarks or your speeches between 5 and 10 minutes. And if we have more time, we'll call you back up because we want to get you out at a time. Come on, Mr. Alan Jacobson.
Thank you, James. How about a round of applause for James? And I said, James, is the board helping you with all this? He said he had to go too fast. He didn't want him to hold him back. So,
Al, if you're more comfortable on the podium, so you can rest your...
I'm good. No, so James gave me a list of topics, and he said I should talk for about 45 minutes, but I'll keep it down to 6. So my name is Alan Jacobson. I'm semi-retired. I teach mindfulness online to an organization down in Taunton. In January, I'll start teaching mindfulness to children in the Boston Public Schools. I'm 68 years old and been in good health all my life, but about a year and a half ago, June of 2020, I went in for a regular colonoscopy, and the doctor told me she found something. It was embedded polyps in my colon. And she said she thinks she removed it all, but she wasn't sure. And so I said, okay, but she was going to have a biopsy done. And so I'm like, it was a little unnerving not to know what was there. So they did the biopsy, and 3 days later she said it was cancerous. And I found out that from a doctor at Beth Israel, because they sent me to Beth Israel for follow-up. The chief of surgery said only 10% of all his patients are diagnosed at stage 1. So that was a blessing for me, that I went in and I listened to my doctor, and to go in to have all the preventative stuff done. So if you're a woman, you're supposed to have a mammogram every so often, it's every year or two, do it. If there's any exams that are uncomfortable or embarrassing, do it, get past it. So you can find out if there is a problem. Lifestyle, I haven't eaten red meat in 29 years, haven't had a donut in 30 years. That didn't stop me from getting cancer. I exercise regularly. I try to be positive. So I think I do all the things right, but I still got cancer. My father had cancer. He had 8 inches of his large colon removed when he was in his 60s, about my age probably. And he survived. He never came back. So there's a genetic component for sure. The support system is Tanya, who's at the table with me, my fiance, my brother, friends. James has spent time with me praying and looking for the positive. And you remember all these things that people have done, and it stays with you. So when they told me I had cancer, suggestion was, let my brother know, who's 65, that he should have his colonoscopy more frequently, every 5 years instead of every 10. And my son should have them starting at age 40 instead of age 50. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is, there used to be T-shirts that said, fight cancer. Law of attraction, that's just going to make cancer that much more powerful by certain schools of thought. Then it was cure cancer, which I think is key. But the bottom line is, and my thought is, and a lot of people are thinking, prevent cancer. Diet, nutrition, exercise, positive mental attitude. My wife died in 2005 from stage 4 lung cancer. Never smoked a cigarette in her life, but she was in an environment with other police officers in an enclosed room for 7 years. So secondhand smoke might have impacted that. She did have some symptoms, but they reminded her it was similar to frozen shoulder syndrome. And the physical therapy for that was very painful, so she ignored it, thinking it would go away. But it was actually a tumor in her cervical vertebrae, putting pressure on her nerves. So if she responded quicker, they might have caught it sooner, and we don't know what would have happened. She might have lived a lot longer, but she lived 2.5 years with chemo and radiation, and I went to pretty much every session with her to keep her going, and she was a powerful lady, very strong. But since June 2020, I'm a veteran. I'm a Navy veteran. So I go to the VA for my health care. I've had, anybody here have a colonoscopy before? Okay, it's a lot of fun. I like to stay awake for mine so I can see what's going on. People think I'm crazy, but, and I've got a guided tour by a nurse that's behind me usually, because they don't want you to talk. But I've had 4 colonoscopies since June 2020, 2 CT scans, and 3 MRIs, all showing negative. So, when James asked me to come here and speak, I said, I'll support you, but I'm not sure I want to speak because I felt as though stage 1 is really not a big challenge compared to the people that have to go through chemotherapy and have to go through radiation and have to go through surgery. It's like, who wants to hear my story? But I guess all our stories are important, and I just feel blessed and grateful for every moment. One of the things I tell the people I work with in mindfulness is, because the breath is very important when we breathe through meditation, is we're born with an exhalation when the doctor slaps our butts, and then many years later, hopefully many decades later, we die with an exhalation when we take our last breath. But every breath in between is a gift. So, guys, have a great night. Take care.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank God there's no snow outside coming from the sky, and we were able to arrive safely. I had to actually write down what I had to say because there's so much, and my mind sometimes just goes, and I can't stay on the right track. So to try to keep my story straight, I did write it all down, so forgive me, but I'm going to be looking down as I'm speaking to you, just so that I won't forget any of the points that I have. First of all, my name is Renee Banks Clark. I didn't have to read that, but I just did. And I am here to encourage everyone who needs it through my journey, my testimony. You see, I am a breast cancer survivor. And forgive me, I hope I can get through this without crying, because I'm a crybaby. But first, I am unapologetically Christian. And I love the Lord. I would be remiss if I did not give honor to him for his grace and mercy, which have made it possible for me to stand before you today. Can I get an amen? Amen. Whew, I can't see. I don't know why I'm trying to look at this without my readers on. I don't know, when I hit 50, it was like, you can't see anymore. I am, by the way, I'm 59 years old, right? Yeah. And I was actually diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 57. I'm thankful to be here with a lot of my family members, including my husband, Bobby, who actually, by the way, I didn't mention this to you, James, but my husband is actually a cancer survivor as well, prostate cancer survivor. My youngest daughter, Alana, is here. My sisters, Pam, Sandra, and Karen are over there. Raise your hands, you guys. My brothers, Anthony and his beautiful wife, Sandra, Wayne and his beautiful Angie, and Darren. And my father, Donald Banks. Can you guys all raise your hands? Last but not least, my friends, Pam and Juliet Love. And Juliet is also a cancer survivor, a cancer angel. They're here with their son Christ. So I mentioned all those people specifically because, first of all, I love my family, and I just wanted to show you how important it is to have family and for them to support you. My family came out today for me, and I'm just so grateful. Okay, I'm going to get through this. My first up-close and personal experience with cancer was when my dear mother, Mrs. Fanny Banks, of whom I'm wearing her pin, she was diagnosed with cancer of the uterus. She had surgery, but the cancer returned and took her life some 11 years ago. Losing my mother was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. Cancer is a terrible disease that she suffered through with the utmost grace. Had it not been for my family, their prayers, support, and the grace of God, I would have lost my mind. And I'm sure those of you who have this experience feel the same. Fast forward to November of 2017, when I had my annual mammogram, something that had always been routine. I faithfully scheduled them, never ever considering that they would find anything. I received a call a few days later for a return mammogram, which then led to a biopsy. Now, anyone who has ever had a biopsy knows that that wait for the results is the longest wait of your life. I received a call the day before Thanksgiving, y'all, that the results were positive for ductal carcinoma, which is breast cancer. My whole world stopped at that moment as I pondered why my doctor was giving me this news on the day before a huge holiday, a family holiday. It couldn't wait till Monday? What are you saying to me? This is what I'm thinking. It was not by happenstance that I was in the presence of my sisters because we were at my dad's house cooking for Thanksgiving. God knew I needed to have them there to hold me up once I got the news. When I broke it to them, first there was disbelief, then the tears, then the praying began. My brother Larry joined in, and my dad rounded out the circle, and we started storming the gates of heaven with requests for healing. Eventually, the rest of my family found out, and I believe they stayed on their knees. Now, as I mentioned to you before, I am a Christian, but I started to doubt God. I started thinking, God, why is this happening to me? You said you would never leave me nor forsake me. You made all these promises to me, so why did you allow this? And you know what, y'all? God said to me, I never left you, Renee. I am still here. But I still felt like I was losing my mind because the fear of cancer was so overwhelming that I couldn't hear his voice. I was not ready to go. Not right now, Lord, not now. Soon after that, I called Dana-Farber and made an appointment to see an oncologist and surgeon. I was so scared I couldn't even think straight. God calmed my fears by having the doctor tell me that my surgery could wait until January. So go home and enjoy Christmas with your family. I'm like, what? Okay. But that wasn't enough. I was still scared. I started praying for discernment, healing, peace, mercy, all the things that I know that I should be asking the Lord for. On the way to the doctor's office after the holidays, I was so distraught that God sent me an angel to reassure me. I was in Lowe's with my husband, and a gentleman with a heavy stutter came over to ask me something, but his stutter was so bad that I couldn't understand him. When I asked him to repeat himself, his stutter disappeared. And he said these words to me: God hears your prayers for discernment and will answer them on his time. Have faith, you will be healed. Through tears, I asked this man to repeat himself again, and the stutter returned, so I couldn't understand him. But I heard those words just as clearly as I can hear my voice right now. When I turned to look for my husband, the man was gone. But y'all, I'm convinced he was an angel. I'm convinced. That was God's way of trying to help me get through this. Not trying, because God doesn't try to do anything. He just does it, right? But that was him getting me through this. But guess what, y'all? That still wasn't enough. I was still scared. See, fear has a way of gripping you to the point where you can't think rationally. I had the surgery. Everything went well, thank God. I did a short stint of radiation. Thankfully, I did not have to have any chemo treatments, but I do have to take medication to help prevent the cancer from coming back. I have to take it for 5 years, and praise God, I am now in year 4, cancer-free. Hallelujah. Thank you. My family has helped me tremendously with their prayers. I've been to my sister Karen's house on more than one occasion to have her and her husband Quinn lay hands on me and pray just to get me through the day. I've had some complications due to side effects to the medication, which, of course, me being the hypochondriac that I am, always thought each symptom was something terrible, which never turned out to be the case. From the headaches to the sweating, the fatigue, the irritability, you know what I'm talking about? Pain, blood pressure spikes, muscle aches, depression, even depression, yes, anxiety, all that. Through all that, God has seen me through and continues to do so. He even spoke to me through my sister Sandra to confirm to me that everything was all right. I know my whole family prayed for me, and I'm so grateful that God answered their prayers. I still have my moments, but I'm telling you, but not for the grace of God, I would have gone off the deep end by now. Please allow me to close with these parting words. Ladies, please get checked on a regular basis and encourage all the women you know to do the same. Gentlemen, please encourage the women in your life to have the test done, even if you have to take them to the doctor's office yourself. I never had any symptoms or issues with my breast, but had I not gone for my annual, I might not be here right now. The breast cancer was caught so early that they considered it a stage 0, and I'm grateful for that. I decided that I can either live my life in fear of cancer, or I can go on and enjoy what time I do have on this earth. So I decided to do the latter. God did not give us the spirit of fear, and we all have to leave here sometime, at some point, so I might as well make the best of what God gave me. Lastly, again, I say, please, 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 please get your annual mammogram. It might save your life. As my pastor, Ego Ezidi of Empowerment Christian Church says, in the meantime, in between time, live life. Don't let life live you. Thank you, and to God be the glory.
Well, I want to give a personal thanks to Renee Clark. After my big sister passed away, when I contacted her, I felt it was really pressing upon me to do something about it in a positive way, so that her life, her legacy, her memory, her deeds would live on. That's why I created the Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center. So I thought it was worthy of note and worthy of sharing. So I contacted the Enterprise newspaper, and I put it out there and I said, do you think this may be of interest to you? Susanna responded immediately. She said, yes, I'm interested in it. So she interviewed me and did the story. She put it out there, but one of the things, the details that was left out of the story was the contact, how to reach this guy. And so through, I guess, investigation or research, Renee was able to contact the reporter of the story, and therefore he put in touch with me. And I was so moved because she reached out to me. She said, when I read the story, she said, I thought it was about me. There were so many things that were parallel in terms of the story. For having children, grandchildren, being young, having breast cancer, that paralleled the story of my sister. She says, I'm retired, and I want to volunteer, and I'm going to do, and that was so emotional because I put it out into the atmosphere, and the returns came back, and the result is growing. She introduced to her huge family. It's all part of that. Again, one reaching one, touching all. It's one reaching one, touching all. So I thank her for that, just for her genuine efforts and her sincerity about this effort. And thank you so much. So at this time, we're going to thank you. Joyce Gandy to come and have some words.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, my name is Joyce Gandy. I have to put this close because I lost my glasses, so I can't hardly see. So, I'm from Dorchester. I used to work at a nursing home in Jamaica Plain. I worked there for 12 years. And I was there for a while, but when I was working, I had started getting sick, and I didn't know why, but I still worked because I loved my job. So I was working with like elderlies and stuff like that. So one day I was talking to my boss, and I say, well, I don't feel good. And I said, I need to call my doctor and find out what's going on. So I had the best doctor in the world. So I called him and told him, well, I'm at work, I don't feel good. I say, can you make me an appointment? So he said, okay, can you come in tomorrow? I said, well, let me talk to my boss. And so I told her, I said, well, he wants me to come in. And she said, okay. So what time? I said, well, I have to come in after work. So he said, okay. When you come in, just let them know that you come in to see me. I said, okay. So I goes, and then he tells me, like, at the clinic, they don't have the equipment like they do at the big hospitals. So I did the mammogram and all this stuff. So he got the results back, and he said, well, we have to send you to Boston Medical. And I'm looking at him like, well, why am I going to Boston Medical if you're doing it here? He said, no, because we couldn't hardly see what was on the mammogram. So you had to go to Boston Medical to get, the big results. I said, okay. So I went that Friday. No, it was a Thursday. I went to Boston Medical, and then they did the mammogram and all that. So they said, well, we'll contact your doctor and let him know what's going on. I'm like, okay. But I still wasn't feeling good, and I didn't know if I should go back to work or not. So they said, oh, you can go back to work. I said, okay. So I went back to work, and my doctor called me because he had the number to my job, and he called me. He said, you need to call Boston Medical. And I'm like, okay, fine with me, I said, well, it's nothing, because sometimes you say, oh, it's nothing, but you never know. So I said, okay. So I did, and they told me to come in that Tuesday. So this was a Thursday. They told me to come in on Tuesday, and I said, okay. So they say, I talked to, my doctor was Dr. Kavanaugh, and she told me that, said, did you bring somebody with you? I'm like, what do you mean, did I bring somebody with me? She said, did you bring someone with you when you came? I said, well, my daughter's here, but my son's supposed to come, but he never showed up. So she said, well, you need somebody with you. I said, uh-oh, this is not good. So I said, okay. So my daughter went and called her father to tell him what was, that I was down there. So Dr. Kavanaugh told me, say, well, you are a stage 4 cancer. And I'm like, what do you mean stage? Because I didn't know what a stage 4 or whatever. So she did explain it she had the diagram and everything, and showed me what a stage 4 is. And I say, okay. So I wasn't like, shocked or anything. I was just like listening, because I guess she knew what she was talking about. So I sit there, and she was telling me, okay, this is a stage 4. This is how, it works, and this and that, whatever. I said, okay. And so she told me, if you had waited a couple of weeks, we couldn't do anything. And I'm like, and then it hit me. And I'm like, what? She said, listen, if you had waited, we couldn't do anything for you. And that's when, everything, after that, I didn't hear nothing she said, because everything just flew over my head. And she said, you want me to go get your daughter? And I said, yeah. So my daughter came in. A week before that, one of her friends in New York, his mother died from cancer. So she, she already knew about the cancer and all that. So when she came in, I got up, and that's when I started crying, because she said, oh, if you had waited, you wouldn't be here. And I'm like, what? So after that, she was talking to my daughter, and my daughter, she was all calm and everything, and I'm looking at her like, yeah, right, I'm over here bawling my eyes out, and you calm, so. But she said, Mommy, you're gonna be okay. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say. But it was just in my head that if I had waited, and I'm like, because for the whole month, I've been having the same problem. But then when they told me that, and I said, okay. So then Dr. Kavanaugh told me to have a seat, and she told me, she said, listen, you're not the first, you're not the last. She said, you're gonna meet 10 people, and out of 9 of those people, one of them is gonna come out with cancer. So you're not by yourself. And I said, okay. But, like, the lady said, sometimes when people tell you things, in your mind, everything goes real fast. And you're like, what? And my thing is, I start to question God, but then I turn around and I say, you know what? You can't question God, because God gave you something for a reason. And I said, okay, I can do this. But I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So my daughter that was with me through all of this, she's the youngest. She's my baby. I had to do, when Dr. Kavanaugh told me that I had cancer, and she said, well, I tell you what, I'm gonna give you a month to decide what you wanna do. So she gave me options. She said, either you can do the surgery, you can do this and do that. I said, okay. And so she said, don't wait too long. So I didn't call her, she called me. She said, you need to come in and tell me what you want done. So I told her, I say, well, I don't know about the surgery or whatever. And my daughter said, yeah, she'll do the surgery. Like, you answering for me? So it's my diagnosis, and you're gonna tell them what to do to me? So I said, okay, that's fine. So, oh, it fell out. So I said, okay. So she made an appointment to do the surgery. So I went back to work. But I had to, you had to go through procedures, let your boss know, let everybody know what, I just told the important people. Because if I told other people, it would have been a pity party, and I don't like pity parties. So don't pity me, because God got this. So I say, okay. So I went back, got all my paperwork done and all that. So in June, I had the surgery, and I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. I had breast cancer on the right side. And when Dr. Kavanaugh told me that I had 17 lymph nodes has to be taken out, but after they did the surgery, I had 32. So on this side is really numb, but the feeling has come back, because it's been 11 years. This year was 11 years since I had my surgery. So I'm still here. So when I was laying in the hospital and drugged out and all this stuff, but I came to the conclusion, if God kept me around this long, he has something for me to do. And I say, you know what? When he gives you a second chance, take it. And you do it, and to me, when I first started the support group, it was through the social worker at BMC. And I'm like, I'm not telling people my business, because I don't know these people. But then when I started going to Bob's program, I saw people that I knew. And I'm like, I didn't know they had cancer either. But you never know. So I went to the program, and I went there for 3 months. My friend Marilyn would tell you, I cried every day. We all cried, because everybody in the room went through something. So we sit there, we cried, we laughed, and I'm sitting there looking at these people like, they don't know what I'm going through. But then I sit and listen. Yes, they do. Because everybody, cancer is not the same. So I sit there and I went to the group, and they helped me a lot. But the most thing that I really, really got through to me is that if God gave you a second chance and you can help other people, do it. And I found out when I started helping other, like listening to other people or helping other people, I didn't have a problem. My cancer was like nothing compared to what other people. I went through chemo. I went 8.5 weeks of chemo. I went 8.5 weeks with radiation. I lost all my hair, but I got my hair back. Yeah, I got my hair back. And that was mostly the thing that hurted me because, us women, we love our hair. And I lost all my hair. And when I going through chemo, I told my son that, the first time I saw my hair fall out, I was at my mom's house. Because my daughter didn't want to leave, because they was going on vacation, they didn't want to leave me by myself. So they told me to stay with my mom until they come back. And I said, no, I can stay in the house by myself. And my daughter said, no, you're not staying by yourself, you're going to stay with my mom. So I was in my mom's room, and I was laying on the bed, and I had to get up. So when I got up, the pillow was full of hair. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I goes in the bathroom, and I just did like this. All my hair started falling out. And I'm like, oh. I said, I can't do this. So I said, well, you know what? I'll get my son to cut it off. So, because it would have had, like little bulges or whatever. So when I asked him to cut my hair, I'm like, he sit there and cried. I said, I'm the one should be crying because it's my hair. But he cried more than I did. And I'm like, listen, you want me to cut it off, or you gonna cut my hair? He said, I'm gonna cut your hair, but he was crying and water dripping on me, and I like, listen, boys, quit raining on me. Just cut my hair off. So that went on for a minute. He said, well, I gotta go outside. I said, do you want me to cut my hair, or are you gonna cut my hair? He said, okay, I'll cut it. And he's up there sniffing and cutting my hair, and I'm like, oh. So then he said, listen. He said, I'm gonna cut my hair too. And then the next day I seen him, all his hair was gone. So I said, okay. But my daughter said, I'm not that crazy, I'm not cutting my hair off. I said, okay, you don't have to cut your hair off. That's his choice. You don't have to cut your hair. And so after all of that, I learned that from all of this experience that I went through, and I met a lot of men and women, cancer survivors, and I lost a lot of friends from cancer. They had cancer and they came back and they couldn't beat it. But what got me through, I turned myself into a person that tried to help other people. And I started doing things for BMC, like setting up tables and giving out flyers, and and I have people like Marilyn and a couple more people, and I had one man, but he passed away a couple of years ago. We set up tables at functions and parks and stuff like that to let people know you have to do this stuff. You can't, like they don't think men have breast cancer, but they do. A lot of men say, oh, I don't have, a lot of men do. And I met men through, giving out flyers and stuff, they did have breast cancer. And I'm like, cancer don't have no discrimination. Cancer, it doesn't care how old you are, how young you are, or how you feel, it doesn't. Cancer doesn't discriminate against nobody, because you never know. And my thing is, if God gave you a second chance, take it. Do your best to do whatever you can to help other people. Because I used to sit in the waiting room, don't know these people from Jack, and they be sitting there, they be talking like, oh, I don't know who to talk to or whatever, I would go get a flyer. I say, call Bob. And, and a lot of people went to Bob's program. Well, we still do on Zoom, but it's not an easy thing to go through. It's very hard. And you have to realize that if you don't do anything about it, about yourself, try to help somebody else. And that's how I look at it now, because I done been through a lot. I just lost an uncle this year with lung cancer. And most of the problem in my family is heart problem. And I lost cousins, I done lost aunts, and all this from heart problem. Not cancer, but heart. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Please, just take the time to even go check out yourself or go visit somebody else. Or even if you know that the person doesn't want to talk to you, just listen. You don't have to tell me now. You can tell me later, or you can tell somebody else, because sometimes when somebody say you have cancer, it messes up your mind. It messes up your head, because they know cancer is a killer. So it does mess up your head. Even if you don't want to talk to nobody in your family, get somebody outside of your family, because that's what I did. And my daughter was my backbone, my youngest daughter. She went through everything with me. Even when I had my surgery, she wanted to come with me with radiation, but radiation didn't last so long. I had to do it every day. And I had to do it like at least 15, 20 minutes a day. So she couldn't go with me to the radiation, but she was there with me with chemo. And you had to go at 8 in the morning. Sometimes you don't get out until 4 and 5 o'clock in the evening. That's how long it goes. Because they have to do tests, make sure your blood work is good and all this stuff before they even give you all this chemical stuff. But like the lady said, right now, I was taking the pills for 5 years. They added 5 more years. So I'm almost done. I got 1 more year and I'm done. So I can say I'm a survivor. And this journey that, that we go through in life, it's not just about cancer, it's about everything. Because when you go through life, it's a journey. It's like sailing on a ship. You're going to be on the ship, you don't know if it's going to go wobble or whatever. You don't know. So I know I'm supposed to go down this line, but I can't hardly see this paper. So, so I'm just talking off the top of my head. So that's all I have to say right now. So thank you guys so much.
So thank you so much, Joyce. Joyce has sort of reinforced some of the things that were said earlier. And one thing she mentioned, it reminded me of a brief conversation that Veronica had with our mom. About 2 weeks before she passed, she said, Mom, I looked back over my life, and I had only one regret. My mom said, what is that? She said that I didn't take better care of myself. That was really powerful, because what Joyce was saying is that, she loves her job. And that's one of the things that keep people, I'll check it later, I got this decision, and you keep putting it off, And see, God saved you by those couple of weeks, And I think one of the personal goals that we should always strive to is to know our body. First of all, know yourself, your spirit, and so forth, but know your body. It's not normal to have a pain in your neck. That's not normal. Or it's not normal to suddenly get a big rash on your arm or something. That's not normal. So after, a while, you need to get checked out. And so I'm so grateful that you listened to that voice in your head and followed your mind. Because guess what? The job is going to be there after you're gone. And if that CEO or the company, that board doesn't want the company to exist anymore, they're going to sell out. But they're going to forward. Not with you in mind. And so you again, she's focused on your body. Take care of yourself. You see the signs. Go get it checked. Get a second opinions. So Veronica's saying that what she regrets is not taking better care of herself. And she was a giver. She was more concerned about other people than herself. She ignored the signs. She get a little pain in her chest. She said, oh, maybe because I picked up that chair the wrong way. She ignored it. She was focused on everybody else. And that was the theme that sort of rides the air for her. Is a love, peace, and compassion for others. You know, she did chemo 3 times a week. And would come home just almost zonked out because of the experience. And she would find enough strength to pick up that cell phone, get it to Amazon, and she's ordering toys for other people's kids, talking about happy birthday next month or whatever. So she's always thinking about everybody else, but she was at a level of peace. And that's what you have to find that inner peace, find out what you're comfortable with. You know? And that said, so I learned, speaking of peace, and you have to have patience with that. And on that note, we're going to bring up Miss Patience. And Miss Patience, Ajay, Akosa.
Breast cancer is a journey I never planned or asked for, but I chose love, life, and hate the disease, and I'm fighting it. Good evening. My name is Patience AJ Akosa. I live in Hyde Park. I'm originally from Ghana. January, November, December, my doctor kept asking me to go and do my mammogram. And I kept pushing it off. She calls me and says, have you made an appointment? I said, oh, I'll make it next week. Then she'll call me. And finally, in January 2021, she called and said, Patience, I made an appointment for you myself. So I went to Boston Medical for the mammogram. I spent 6 hours there that day. They weren't sure whether there was something, they see something. I had like 3 doctors came to check. Finally, I had ultrasound, and they concluded they see something, so I need to do biopsy. They gave me an appointment for 2 weeks. When I came back, they couldn't have the biopsy through mammogram, so I have to make another appointment for MRI. So I had the MRI and waiting for the results was scary. I don't know what to think, what if? And I convinced myself, I'm like, oh, there's nothing, it's just one of those things. So 2 days after my birthday, 16th April, the call came in. And the doctor said, oh, Patience, I'm sorry. And broke the news, you have breast cancer, stage 1. I broke down. I had my friend with me. I broke down. I didn't hear anything else he said. The first thing that came into my mind, like, shit, I'm dead. And after maybe an hour or 2, I catch myself up and I'm like, no, I'm a child of God. God got me. Nothing is going to happen to me. I'll get help. I started saying positive things to myself that everything will be okay. I'll be fine. So 2 days later, I called again. Actually, he called me and said, you have to make an appointment for a surgery. They made the appointment. I had the surgery. A week or two later, I had to go for the results. He said, "Patience, I'm sorry. There is more we have to take." I'm like, shit. I had 3 surgeries before finally I had mastectomy. I had to take both out. And through it all, I was believing in God that everything will be fine. I had my friends, my family being there for me, supporting me in all the ways. I had my church family. I had my siblings visiting and all that. After I had radiation for 6 weeks every day. I had injection once every 3 months. And I'm taking the pill for 7 years. And the hot flashes, headaches, loss of appetite, tiredness, feeling weak, I can't sleep, and all that. But I thank God that I'm still here. And I started telling all my friends, please make appointment for your mammograms. Just go, just go. When I was diagnosed, I think 3 months later, my friend's daughter, who was 31 years, was also diagnosed. And I've been a big support. Whatever I went through, I'm telling her, and I'm encouraging her. I'm encouraging her, and I'm happy I'm able to do that for her. So I joined the BMC support group, and it's been very helpful. Sometimes what I'm going through, another person is going through, so I feel I'm not going through that alone. I'm like, oh, that's normal. And then I like to read a little more. Sometimes it's so scary, the things you read, but it's good to know what is going on. So I'm happy I'm still here, and counting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Simmons, and I'm on January 17th, 2022, I'll be a 21-year survivor. And I went for a routine mammogram, and that's how I found out. That's when they saw some suspicious things on my ultrasound. And I had to go back in, and then they informed me that I had to have surgery. So I went in for the surgery, and then they called me and said that I had to go back because they didn't get it all. So I went back in and did a lymphectomy at the same time. That's when they take out your lymph nodes. So they only took out 11, but they found cancer in 4. So they told me that the type of cancer that I had was very aggressive and was traveling, and I didn't know at the time, and I think it's a good thing because I think it messes with your mind, but I found out afterwards that I was a level 4. And sometimes stuff like that can play havoc with you. So anyway, my children, I have a son and a daughter. And my daughter was a senior in high school, and she had gotten awarded a lot of money to go to college. She didn't want to go. I told her, you're going, because whether I live or die, you have to live. And this is an opportunity that don't come along too often. And I ain't going nowhere. So she cried, she was mad with me and everything, but she got over it. And she went away to school. When I went to take her to school, She wouldn't even turn back and look at me, and I was upset, but the reason she didn't turn back is because she said she would have broke down. But I was getting ready to cry. My son said, don't you do it, because if you cry, I'll be crying. And he said, I don't want to cry. So anyway, I had to go to 2 regimens of chemotherapy, 4 regimens, excuse me, of chemotherapy, and 33 radiation treatments. And like Joyce was saying earlier, they told me 14 days after you have that chemo, your hair will start to come out. That was hard for me. Looking in the mirror, you see this alien looking at you. You have no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing, the bald head shining from the reflection of the light and everything. And, you know, your hair is your crown of glory. I know that's vanity, but as a woman, that's my prerogative. So anyway, I got through that. And from the radiation, I got 3rd-degree burns under the breast. And that was hard. But it healed quickly. Thank God I'm a fast healer. And that's what I tell people. When you're going through something, this is the time to call on whatever faith you believe in, because this is the time you need to depend on that to get you through these hard days. And so I always knew God had my back. I never felt like I was going anywhere. I kept as close to a routine as I could. I worked every day except the days I had treatment. And my children were both away at college when I was going through the worst part. So it was me and my dog. I had this big old Rottweiler. So it was me and him. So you have to get up and take care of him, feed him, take him out to walk. So that gives you a reason to get up and do the things that you need to do. And people say a lot of times, why me? I say, why not me? Because then you can tell somebody else about your journey and make their path a little easier to travel. So that's about it for my story. Like I said, I worked every day, and then I became part of the Pink and Black program. It was a thing where black women go out and speak to other black women and groups and schools and everything about, pink isn't the only color of cancer. And then through that group, I met Bob, through another survivor at the time who has since gone on. And I've been part of the group since that time. And it feels good to just be able to share what you've been through with somebody else who doesn't know what to expect. But if you can make their journey a little bit easier, it's worth the effort. And I'm going to leave you all with a little song that helps me get through and helped me get through at that time. It's only a couple of words of it, but I don't feel no waste time. I've come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me.
Marilyn, if you can just stand right there. And I'm going to have all the survivor angels to come out and receive some showering of gifts. So you want to, my friend over here. Earlier I said, "Do you want to speak?" She says, "I don't know, I'm on the fence. So I don't know what side of the fence you on now." But I told you it wouldn't be that difficult. It would be easy. You want to introduce yourself? Because I want to make some presentations, like I said. Be mindful of the time. You guys have some new travel from Boston, and can congratulate you on it and show you love on behalf of my dear sister Veronica, who again, she our mom, if she come up and have present some things to her. Louise Bruce. Juliet. And here we have Juliet. She's going to say a few words, and then we're going to make some presentation. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. So I'm Juliet. I'm not prepared, just as I wasn't prepared for my diagnosis either. After listening to all you ladies tell your story, and the last two who said, pass it on, let someone else know what you went through and how to help someone else, I sat there. God got me. He told, So back in 2015, I found a lump myself. And I called the doctor, it was on the weekend, and I called the doctor that Monday, and she made the appointments for me. I went in the next day. They did my mammogram, but she also set up an appointment for me to have an ultrasound. The mammogram came back fine. They said they didn't find anything, and so I was prepared to, okay, I'm ready to go home. And after the ultrasound, they told me to just wait a minute. And I was like, wait a minute. And like you said, you all say, and they said they found something. So, and they believe it was cancerous. So they set up an appointment. It went so quickly, they did an appointment to have the biopsy done, but I didn't do it at New England Medical, because the way some staff people treat you, the receptionists, the people that you meet right at the front, she had no feeling, So we made an appointment at Dana-Farber. I went over, they did the ultrasound, and they found it was stage 1. So I went through the motions, and I finally got it removed. I opted for the surgery. They removed it, they took out some lymph nodes, and that was good. I healed pretty good. And also I was in the middle of an adoption. So they put it off for a whole year because they needed to make sure that I survived. I told her it was gonna be fine, but fast forward, I'm on the same medication. I just finished my tamoxifen a year ago, November, so I'm off of that. Unfortunately, fast forward 2 years, I was having some pancreatic issues. They did an endoscopy. They said that, it was probably just rupturing. Then they said, well, have your colonoscopy, because you haven't had one in a while. And I didn't have it because I was going through the breast cancer and all like that. And I went in, had it, the test done, and I came out, and I'm looking at everyone that was there with me, everybody's gone, and I was still there. So the nurse comes out, and she was supposed to call Pam, who was waiting for me, and tell me the news together, but she didn't. They just told me, and it was like, it was terrible, because they said I had colon cancer. They didn't know what stage it was at that point. So I'm standing in the middle of the atrium at the hospital, and we're just there crying, because it just hits you like, again. Yeah. And like you said, why me? Why did I get it? They have no family history of it or anything like that. So I went through that. I got through. They took out about 12 inches of the colon, but I survived that as well.
All right.
Unfortunately, again, fast forward 2 years, 19, I think it was 2019, they said that I had multiple myeloma, the blood, cancer in the blood. They can't cure it, but they can treat it. But I'm still here. So I thank God for sparing me all these years with that. I go every 3 months to have my blood checked to make sure the levels are not rising or moving. They haven't moved in the last 9 months, almost. So no treatment right now. And so I'm thankful to God for sparing me to be here to watch this little one grow. And I don't know, like you said, you just got to talk about it. It was hard to talk about. And then I met my sister over here, and she started telling me how she thinks she was going through it. Well, did you feel this, or did you have to do every symptom she's had, every symptom that every one of you here has had, I've been through it, and I sympathize in a sense that it's hard to explain sometimes when you're being mean and you don't even know you're being angry, or you're talking to someone.
Sometimes you just cry for no reason.
For no reason, So, but I have a good support team. The little ones got me through it, because you got to give them the same energy that they're looking for. I know it was hard on them as well, but I just thank God for my family here, those that supported me, and there was a lot of friends that stood by me and stood by us and helped us through a lot of things that you didn't have to ask anyone to do this for you. They just do it, you know what I mean? We're here, and I appreciate every last story you have here, because like you said, someone else is going through it, and they believe that they're the only one right there. So God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to leave this on the table here.
Okay, we have the Bible says that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. So since Juliet was the last, we're going to bless you with this, Juliet. And it's a certificate of recognition in the spirit of love, peace, and compassion for others. Presented to, and each of you will have your name put on, for being a cancer survivor angel, awarded this 23rd day of December 2021. By Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center, the founder, director, and brother, Dr. James E. Bruce, yours truly. And it says, Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center was established in 2021 in legacy of Veronica D. Bruce Butler. So we salute you. This is that. And I understand that there's a ritual or a ceremony ritual that happens. You ring the bell, and so that you remember that.
That's your wings.
So you're still going to
Get your wings.
and by faith, you just get up every morning, you ring your bell, say, he's gone. He's gone. Okay, so that's the word. This is the bottle of sparkling cider. And we want you to take that and cherish it. And you when you feel that moment you want to celebrate, you should go out and celebrate today. And that's us. We bless you. Thank you so much. And the next one is for Joyce Vandy. Joyce, we enjoyed your story. Thank you so much.
I just wish I had my glasses.
And likewise, there's a mask. It says Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center. And here's your bell. So when you feel you need to ring it, celebrate.
Ring my bell.
Sure. And then we have a rose for you. Oh, you have
Come on.
Okay, thank
Want to
you
give me a
so-
number? That's fine.
Yes. God bless you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Then we have next Marilyn Simmons. We present to Marilyn Simmons. And we present that to you. Okay. And if all of you can remain up here, because we're going to take a group photo, if that's okay. And then we have Angela Jordan. Angela Jordan. In the future, we'll hear Angela's story, because I know she got a good one. There we go, Angela. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And then we have Patience Aja Akusa. Did I say that right? Thank you. And celebrate. Then we have Renee Clark. That's you.
Thank you.
Renee.
Thank you.
There you go. No?
Thank you. Can I just explain this?
Absolutely, sir.
I just want to let everybody know, for those who didn't hear, yeah, I got it, thank you. The bell signifies, at the end of our radiation treatment, they would allow us to ring a bell.
Oh, that's right.
At Dana-Farber, yeah, just to signify that another one made it through. So this is our little our accomplishment bell. So thank you for this, James.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to God be the glory. And then we have last but not least, Mr. Alan Jacobson. He's representing the men. There we go. And we have that. The mask, and rose, and a bell.
The whole shebang.
And the whole shebang.
Sir.
Yes. So if all the recipients is come up and want for a nice photo, if it's okay. Yeah, you can stand in line here and photo. Yeah, you can hold your, you can just. And Bob, would you like to join us, since three of them represent from the group?
Yeah. Should I?
Mom? Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, you can.
Come on up, honey, you're a prostate cancer survivor. Come on up.
Hold on, sir.
I can sing.
Join just a second. Camera people. And the next thing is.
I know, that's what I filled in there. 'Cause
Okay, so we stand with them, and we, once again, we salute each and every one of you. We likewise salute all your support systems, the people, the institutions, the organizations, the scripture even becomes your institution, your support. So we salute all of that, because without them, you would not be, I'm sure, who you are, and all that you can be. So I salute you on behalf of Veronica D. Bruce Butler and the Team Veronica Cancer Resource Center. We salute each and every one of you. We thank you in advance for your continued faith, your trust, your hope. And thanks again for sharing your very valuable experience. I learned a lot, and I'm sure you've learned a lot from each other. And continue to give, and you will receive back. God bless each of you. Thank you. And we have just a couple words. She's not a big time speaker either, so just have a couple words from her mom, our mom, and here we go.
Thank God for this event tonight, and for all the survivors. And thank God, because I've worked in these hospitals too. I was a CNA for years, and I worked in Dana-Farber, all the hospitals around there, and I just loved being a CNA, and I was a medical assistant too, and I just loved the medical field and the people I was able to help. Love you.
Once again, thank you. You all have a safe journey home. Have a wonderful, happy holiday, and may God bless you and your family. And have a wonderful, wonderful, and a safe. Please be careful and safe as we battle this next variant. God bless each of you and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you so much.